Welcome back. Circling back to a top story with Singapore setting up a new council to tackle how AI is reshaping jobs and businesses. And for more, we speak with Associate Professor Terence Ho, who is Executive Director at the Institute for Adult Learning at SUSS. Prof. Ho, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, what problem is this new Tripartite Jobs Council trying to solve that existing schemes are not already addressing?
I think the new Tripartite Jobs Council will serve as more of a focal point to coordinate various existing and maybe potential future initiatives by different tripartite partners rather than necessarily addressing a different problem. It would serve as a strong signal of commitment by the various tripartite partners that they are together addressing this national priority. And importantly, I think it will perform a coordinating role so the efforts, what each party brings to the table, will be multiplied rather than duplicated.
At this point, the labour market still looks quite strong, but the hiring sentiment, as we've heard earlier in the programme, is starting to soften. So is this council coming in early enough, do you think, or are we already starting to play catch-up with AI?
I think it's about the right time because for any new technology, there is a kind of S-curve for adoption. And we're probably at the early phase of that curve where the adoption rates are uneven across industries and across firms. So I think that as more firms figure out how to incorporate AI to transform the work processes, the job impact will likewise pick up. And so I think this is about the right time that we start looking ahead for what may come.
And about tripartism in Singapore, that's traditionally focused more on like wages, disputes, avoiding strikes. But how is tripartism now used to then actively shape the future of work in Singapore?
So I think tripartism in Singapore has already moved beyond just wage bargaining, even though that remains important, and preserving industrial harmony. It's been used to forge consensus on many issues affecting the workforce, whether it's reskilling or whether the government's introducing new policies such as extending the retirement age or even introducing workplace fairness legislation. So in the same vein, I think that this will help to forge consensus. I think that will be the key role in reshaping the future of work, particularly as we expect that we need reskilling at scale now. We need job redesign at scale. And so these efforts, I think, the behind-the-scenes trust and coordination among tripartite partners can really facilitate this reshaping of the work.
That's a strong foundation for the work ahead. Well, we also heard earlier in a separate MOM report that AI is not displacing jobs widely right now. But what are the early warning signs we should look out for should that start to happen?
So earlier this year, I actually asked the question in Parliament to the Ministry of Manpower whether there have been any signs of any incipient signs that fresh graduate hiring may be slowing down. And the reply I received then from the Manpower Ministry is that the trends so far have been broadly stable. So one thing we could look out for is whether fresh graduates or the younger workers are being able to find jobs at the same pace, because some of them may not have picked up the experience compared to the senior workers to be able to add value to AI. So we could look at that, and we could look at internships. But at the same time, I think we have to be open to different possibilities as well, such as, for example, maybe it would be senior workers who are earning higher salaries that may give way to younger workers augmented by AI. So it's important to keep open mind, to look at the data, not just in aggregate, but by different sectors, occupations, and age bands.
And part of keeping that open-mindedness is training, of course. Do you think that current training programs are moving fast enough to keep up with how much more quickly AI is evolving?
I think we could be even faster because AI is shaping, it's changing job needs. So particularly for continuing education and training, whether it's private training providers or the institutes of higher learning, we have to be more nimble at being able to update curricula more quickly and mount new courses. And sometimes, of course, there's a need to properly design courses, to put in place the quality vetting and assurance and so on. And that's still important, but there's a trade-off between that and timeliness. So we almost need a fail fast, learn fast approach and be much more nimble. So this applies not just to the training providers, but also to regulators and even the adult educators themselves who need to be more nimble at training new content.
Yeah, and the impact of this AI shift is also likely to affect people quite unevenly. The larger firms could also adopt AI a lot faster than the SMEs in this sense. So do you see a risk of there being a widening inequality between companies and also among workers?
Yeah, so I did mention that I think there's an unevenness in the adoption of AI. And certainly one might expect that some SMEs may have less management bandwidth or resources or AI readiness. So it's particularly important, therefore, for policy to be able to find ways to reach out to these SMEs, whether it's through the Employers Federation, through the unions, or the government agencies themselves. And I think the role of intermediaries will be quite important. So that will include the industry associations, it will include the business consultants and advisors, how to reach out to them and help them to speed up. Also, the role of queen bee companies to provide training beyond their own needs to others in the industry, or maybe to other players along their supply chain.
Prof. Ho, thank you for sharing your perspectives with us. I've been talking to Associate Professor Terence Ho, and he's telling us more on the new Tripartite Jobs Council and also the impact of AI on jobs.